Winters that we've gotten lately, that as the warmer air does come up further, that it's almost building the storm in deeper than it normally would have?
Well, I've looked at, I mean, it's not conclusive, but I mean, the theory is that with a warmer planet, you have more moisture entering the atmosphere as it's warmer, more evaporation. And it does look like some of the snowstorms that I've studied in terms of areal extent. Some of them seem to be, not proven, seem to be kind of bigger. So maybe one of the ways that we're starting to see the storms might be a little more widespread, produce a little more precipitation. And if it's, it still gets cold. Some places it still gets, big snowstorms. It's conjecture, it's not proven. Here's Boston, basically the same kind of thing. Again, same issue, urbanization. This is really just, I'm just pointing it out. Again, no proof, but, Boston's been an urban, it's been a city for a long time. I don't know how much more urban in the last 50 years it's really gotten that would necessarily make a difference. It could, but it's at least consistent.
Where are those temperatures recorded at?
Actually, I'm not even sure before Logan Airport, but I figured there's somebody in here who knows.
Yeah, when was Logan Airport started?
40s.
41?
40s. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, it was in the 40s.
So where was it before that?
All over the place.
Right, and it's it's pretty obvious that depending on where you have it in Boston, and Logan's right by the water.
There was Customs House, there was a couple other locations. It's moved around quite a bit. It goes back to the 1870s, 1875.
But it's always been within a mile of the water.
Not necessarily.
Customs House is right on the water.
Yeah, but there was a couple places I think a little far, not too far, but I think it's within 5 miles.
Well,
The better record to look at for temperatures in the Boston area is Blue Hill, because they haven't moved in 125 years. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I could have looked at that.
Blue Hill's a good place to.
Right, but my guess is they've been
They're going
moving
up
too.
Oh yeah, they're going up. Yeah.
So it's really not to prove it. It's just all of these records are showing
Mhm.
basically the same thing. It's clear that the late 19th century was just a very cold period of time compared to the climate even back in the 60s. But the good news for Boston is the trend line, despite whatever warming you have, has been stable. What's that?
I said they win no matter what.
Those bastards.
I
know. But there is a little bit of a trend. I mean, here's the 60s. We love the 60s. Started in the mid-50s, ended around 1970. As a little kid, no wonder, here I am. But if you even look back here, lots of ups and downs, hardly a trend at all. But if you look actually following around 1970, it just seems to look spikier. We're getting bigger years, we're also getting a lot of lesser years as well. So when you get bigger years with lesser years, it looks like it's still averaging out. And I had a thought about that. It seems like in areas, even if it's warming, these are still areas that, getting snowfall is not necessarily a rare event in the wintertime. It's still relatively rare in like New York City. You have good years and bad years. But Boston, who averages 40 inches, there could be good years and bad years, but it still snows. So even though it's getting warmer, it's still, if you're going to get more of these storms, and it doesn't necessarily translate to less snow. But I do have the results of another study. No proof. Well, first I'll just, over this last 14, 15 years, we've experienced our snowiest season on record. This is a comparison between New York in white and Boston in blue. It's always very, I have this big, it's been a competition for me. And I think, Jerry, to speak to your point, let me go back to the last slide. There it is. I had to look this up. Over the past 117 seasons, Boston has exceeded New York City snowfall 102 times. I mean, I can't win.
You could move to Boston.
I've been trying, but it didn't work. Anybody out here know anybody that's going to hire me? Okay, DC it is. All right, another small indication, but I like to point out that since 1980, you look in the record books. In New York, there's been 54 record highs from December through March, 12 record lows December through March. In Boston, I thought maybe it would be a little bit different, but it's not. Same kind of statistics. So these days, any time during the winter months, anytime you have the possibility of a record low during the winter time, that's something. It used to be not that big a deal. When I was growing up, you broke record lows on occasion. Now, it's very, very rare. Record highs, no. There has been a study out of the University of New Hampshire that I found on a website. And again, I haven't kept up with the literature that well for the last few years, but I have started to look. And they produced, kind of a perfect paper for the Northeast. They showed basically for many areas across the northeastern United States over a 40-year period that the mean winter temperature, and they used December through March, has risen 3.2 degrees. Now, that's also saying that back in the 60s, that was probably a little anomalously cold, but the trend is the trend. It's still gone up 3 degrees. They noticed that the largest changes were in January and February. The mean snow-covered days, and this is not just in the metropolitan areas, this is all throughout the Northeast, decreased by about 14 days. And the regionally average winter snowfall has decreased about 7 inches per season. So, I guess you don't really need a winter weather expert in the Northeast if it's going down.
We do, yes we do. Yes we do.
Boston does.
Okay, thank you. I want to have a little pity party here. Even though, what, I have to tell you, all those years I worked at the Weather Channel, I'm going to mention like 2000, 2001, 26 days in a row working. It was a pain in the ass. I have this job now. It's really not bad. I'm not very stressed out, and I get to look at the stuff just like you. So it's not too bad. I can still write, but some things are good. All right, now to put that past 10-year winter assessment, these are my very scientific criteria. Was it memorable? How do you document that? I don't care. I'm just doing this for my talk. I looked at conditions from Virginia to Maine with the emphasis on the megalopolis. Definition of a good winter obviously will change depending where you are, from DC, New York City, and Boston. Boston, for example, this past winter, it's a perfect example, actually. You had, what I can say, a good winter, right? In New York, well, it was almost like normal, but if you compare it like to 30 miles south over central New Jersey, you did actually really well. DC, we were cold in January. It didn't snow squat. So in the same winter, it was great. Okay, look, I'll give it a B, and I'll show you why. Maybe I didn't give it a B, I don't know. Anyway, things that I typically do care about, were there a lot of snowstorms? There could have been like a warm month or something like that. But still, was there a lot of action? Was there a big one or just a bunch of little ones? Were the conditions conducive? Was there cold? Was there a negative NEO? If there's just 2 storms over 1 week, it's like, ugh. It's not much of a winter. But if it's a big storm over that 1 week period, I gave it points. Was there just 1 week of winter, or were there opportunities during many weeks? And, it's my perspective, was it a pain in the to forecast? All those things came into my